Hey guys, Paul here. Welcome to RDTV, and as always, a massive thank you for tuning in tonight to see our latest Talk and Drive video. Today, we're driving here, the version 1 release of Sveg Raceway by Leon S for Assetto Corsa. Now, Sveg Raceway, a little bit of history about the track. Came out around 2007 sort of time in an early build, early access release state. Leon S, with help from various sim racing modding personalities, has been developing the mod over the following few months, and as of December 2018 the track has now been updated from a visual and a driving point of view to a level where Leon feels version 1.0 release status is justified, and he's right. It looks like a very well polished, well thought out and well finished mod. Now the track itself is in Sweden. It's called Sveg Raceway, as we've already ascertained, and is a semi-permanent racing facility. So it utilises some very interesting road sections like we're on now, with some slow corners, some quite technical sections. But it's also got some very visually appealing bits as it goes over the bridge and over an expanse of water as well. But one thing that's really worth mentioning early on, here and now, although Sveg is a real place in Sweden and the roads in which we are using in this track are real roads, the actual track itself and the layout is a fantasy layout created entirely by Leon S for the purposes of making this racetrack mod in AC. Now that normally, absolutely hand on heart, normally is not my cup of tea at all. I'm not a particular fan of fantasy content, either cars or tracks really. It's something I tend to steer clear of more often than not in my sim racing journeys, as we do a little bit of hip and shoulder on you. That's got you out of the way, thank you very much. But Sveg is, for me, very much the exception to that rule. The track looks and feels absolutely like a real world racing location. Leon S and crew have done a fabulous job bringing this to Assetto Corsa, and he's really worked hard, it feels, to bring what is a very believable layout to the simulation. And I would absolutely, if I didn't know in advance that this is a fantasy track, I would buy into the idea that Sveg Raceway is a real location in Sweden, and I'm driving on an accurate representation of what is a track that's commonly in use in real world motorsport. And that is a huge plus point about this track, and absolutely a big kudos to Leon for his efforts in creating, hello, where am I going? Efforts in creating Sveg Raceway. Often when making fantasy content for a racing sim, the temptation is just too great to build something absolutely remarkable that's got all the best corners from all the real world tracks around the world. You often see them with a little bit of Spa, Silverstone, Donington, Brands Hatch, Monza, Macau, all rolled into one track. And although that's very spectacular, don't get me wrong, in its own right, and it's an interesting experiment, very rarely does that lead to a polished, finished, realistic feeling racetrack when it's put into the game. But here at Sveg, we've got, as I say, a very believable track. The corners are very realistic into what you would expect for something like this, and the visuals as well, which is a strong aspect of where the version 1.0 update in December has come from. It's very gritty, very earthy, very realistic looking, very clean. There's no dramatic and unrealistic gradients and colours and lines and detailing to the track. It's absolutely, as you would expect, a facility of this kind to look and feel in the real world. And the temptation to not go overboard on that one by Leon must have been incredible. So absolutely well done for tempering imagination with something that's also very believable. And that all significantly adds to the driving experience. It gives you the feeling. Normally, for me personally, if I went on fantasy content, I'd try it out just for the sake of being curious and seeing what we're talking about here, but I'd bore very quickly knowing that it's not the real deal that I'm racing on. But I don't get that here at Sveg. For whatever reason, some performance issues with my machine, some overly excited AI, and some basically pants driving. I've recorded or tried to record this a few times now, and I'll have given up normally and got fed up and wasting my evening. It's getting late, but with any other track. But with Sveg, I actually like the layout, and I'm actually, oh, there we go. I even like the runoff areas. Look, there we go. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Do a bit of grass cutting. I like the layout enough that I don't mind firing the game back up again and having another pop. Especially in these caterhams, it's particularly a particularly good experience in these wonderful little. I'm in the Caterham Academy car at the moment with these wonderful little caterhams by Benno Bro. Another really excellent mod and something that you want to get yourself checked out over at RD at some stage in the near future, because yeah, these cars are fabulous. But he's done a really good job as Leon S to get Sveg to a state now where it feels very polished. The track is very cleanly put together, everything looks very neat. He's got a nice amount of weathering and aging on the concrete barriers and the track surface as well. So again, that adds to the whole. Am I driving a real track with a bit of history, or am I driving something that's straight off the design page? That really adds to that sort of feeling of, yes, I'm driving something real here. I'm driving something very believable. So again, well done to Leon and his team of advisors or people that have helped him during the build creation of Sveg Raceway for Assetto Corsa. It all looks and feels the business. Now, I do have one gripe, and you can probably see it in this video while I'm driving round, and that's the performance is not particularly spectacular on this track. It is giving me significantly lower FPS than I'm getting on many other mod tracks and Kunos stock content as well, and that's annoying, to be quite honest. It's not a hugely built up track. There's not a lot of scenery apart from a whole load of trees and some really cool water, so the performance is lower than I would have hoped and expected at this stage, but it has been acknowledged by the author as something that he's looking at for a future build release, so hopefully that will be addressed, and then that will really ramp up the enjoyment level of this mod massively, because that's the only really major gripe that I can see with it at this stage. And that's something that absolutely can be addressed for future builds of that, I am sure. So I'm not going to call that a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. And the AI as well. The AI plays quite nicely with us. I'm racing 100% AI difficulty in these little caterhams, and they seem to be doing the job quite nicely. They're giving me a good race when I can keep it. When I can keep it on the grey stuff. So all in all, a very solid mod, very well put together, very well thought out. It's got a bit of variety, it's got a lot of realism in its feel. The road mesh feels really good. I can feel the bumps, I can feel the car and what it's doing underneath me in terms of road surface, so that's really positive as well. And I love these concrete curbs, I think they're cool. I really like that. I really like it as the car bounces over them. That's a nice touch and something that feels authentic for what one would find on a circuit of this kind. So absolutely, I can buy into that being part of what would have been the real world racetrack should it exist. And I briefly mentioned, but it does deserve another chat again at this stage. The track's not absolutely straight. Hello, what am I doing here? The track's not absolutely straight from Leon's Head. It does utilise real world roads, so there are recognisable sections of tarmac on here should you be driving around this particular region of Sweden in your real life, and that's cool as well. So it's not just been planted in a generic area to make it look like some kind of Scandinavian quiet town somewhere in that part of the world. It's actually based on something that could realistically be created, should you widen the bridge anyway, for motorsport purposes in real life as well. And that's quite cool, and that's one of the many different things I enjoy about sim racing, that's possible to do something like that in sim racing as well. So again, kudos for that. Big well done for where you've decided to choose to pick this track and how you've replicated the real deal. All adds to that all-important immersion factor and realism factor within the title, which certainly for people like me is very important to get a good gaming experience and to get you coming back for more, basically, which is essentially that's really the thing for any piece of content for a racing sim. Make it so the end player enjoys what they're doing, has a good time, has a solid experience, and most importantly wants to come back again for some more of the same. And I think Sveg achieves that. Now, we're racing the excellent Caterham Academy 2017, I think, in his car. But Sveg is appropriate for a whole range of different vehicles, so it works nicely with a slower class of car like we've got here. It works nicely in bigger cars like GT3 machinery as well, or even road cars, and that's also quite a difficult juggling act to achieve when creating a track layout from scratch like has been done here. To make something that's suitable for all different, I dare say a Formula 1 car might be a bit of a struggle, especially with these concrete curbs even, but to make a track that's potentially enjoyable in a whole range of different content is also very nice, and it's been achieved really well by the author with Sveg. So it's great in these little Caterhams, although frankly anything's great in these little Caterhams, but it's also really good in a much higher powered, heavily more downforce reliant car like the GT3 or GTE category of cars that are so very popular in sim racing and Assetto Corsa as well at this moment in time. And that's really cool. That gives the circuit a little bit more versatility, because again, often I found in fantasy created content, because of the clean sheet of paper that's afforded the author and the ability to do whatever it is they fancy, the tracks always tend to be a little bit focused on Formula 1 levels of performance side of things, and less suitable for a smaller car like this here Caterham that we're driving tonight. And that's cool that that's not something that's afflicted Sveg, and that it is something that's been built with a wide variety of different cars in mind. I dare say this would be a really good location for a touring car as well, because there are what appears to be some good overtaking opportunities. There's some good driver's corners as well. There's some corners where you need a little bit of commitment and carry a little bit of pace. There's some corners, where you need to be a little bit more accurate and hit your braking points, monster the curbs. So it's got a little bit of everything from a corner point of view, apart from the really super high-speed flat chat Eau Rouge type turns that you would get at Spa, for example. So basically it's my kind of track. It's really nice, like I'm driving today in a H-pattern car, to go up and down the box, and oh, am I going to be a bit wide here, to go up and down the box and do the heel and toe into the tighter corners. So again, Leon's got a nice mix of the the sort of things that I believe a good proportion of sim racers enjoy from their tracks. It's wide enough to run 2 or 3 wide should you need to in racing conditions, and I dare say it's a very good track for online racing as well as racing against the AI, which we're doing today. And actually, talking of online racing for a moment, the download that's available now, the version 1.0, does come in 2 different layouts, 2 different types. We're driving the essentially the offline variant, so the one that's configured for single player races against the AI like we're doing now. But there's also what's been branded as an online version, so that's got stricter cut penalties involved, and it's basically been tailor-made for online racing, which I think is actually a really cool thing by Leon and his team, and something that I'd love to see more of in sim racing track modding going forward, because we all know, with the best will in the world, online racing, one of the biggest frustrations, apart from idiots, is track limits and some people's greater level of willingness, shall we say, to make the most of track limits for that extra bit of lap time. Now, AC, we love AC here at Race Department. I love AC as well, but we've got to admit it's not got the best cut detection system of all the racing sims out there, which makes it incredibly difficult to perform good quality, secure environment online club racers or league racers without a team of very diligent live stewards and drivers willing to submit incident reports when they see anybody breaching those track limits to gain an advantage. See, that's breaching the track limits, but absolutely no advantage was gained there, so that's okay. A disadvantage, if anything. But to see a stricter version for online racing released as part of the download, that's wicked. That's really cool. I've not tested it out yet myself, so I can't tell you exactly how much more defined those track cut points are in the sim, but in the game, in the track even. But nevertheless, it's really wonderful to see that has been thought about with Sveg Raceway, and a mark of the level of attention to detail that Leon S is willing to put into his track as well. So again, another big kudos for that. That's a really good idea, and it's something I would absolutely love to see rolled out more often with other mod tracks released for AC, and also for other moddable racing sims that are out there, and that'll help event organisers like Race Department and other places to put together an online race that works well for all the people involved in it. So yeah, thanks Leon for that. That's a really good idea, and hopefully that will help Sveg get some more time online on servers as things progress. Although, let's be honest, the FPS will have to be improved before we can get to that stage, because it does feel, in points, a little bit slideshowy on my single monitor setup that I've got running for this stream at the moment, which is a bit of a frustration. And now we're on lap 6 of 10. It's starting to become a little bit distracting for the driving and a little bit sluggish, but as I said at the beginning of the video, that has been acknowledged by the author, and one hopes that will be something that will be looked at and resolved going forward. I mean, we all know, anybody who's got even a small amount of knowledge on Assetto Corsa modding knows that such thick vegetation as you see at the side of this track here is an absolute eater of frame rates. So no doubt they're very well put together, I must say. The very nice looking foliage at the side of the track will need a little bit more attention going forward if this is truly to become an absolutely must-have 5-star mod for the sim. And actually, let's talk while we're on. Well, everybody likes a story about trees, so while we're on the subject of the trackside while we're on the subject of the trackside visuals, I suppose you can see, anybody who's driven a previous release to this version 1 will surely be able to attest the track looks considerably better. It's quite a sizable update to Sveg Raceway is this V1 release, and it absolutely looks top notch now. It really does give you a feel of what it might be like to race in Scandinavia. It's got a very Scandinavian look about it, and I really like that with the certain kind of tree in the background, and you've got the nice shadows rolling out over onto the tarmac itself. It looks really, really good. A lot of time you can see the distance, if you look in the distance behind me at the forest, as far as the eye can see basically. There's no pop-up, everything looks really well fleshed out, and again, it feels really like I am where I'm supposed to be, and I'm not just driving a ribbon of tarmac that's been plonked down into generic scene 001. So that all adds, especially when you're talking that this is a fantasy track, and for me it must all be about trying to embed the realism of, yes, this is an actual place. That really does feed into that visual scene setting that's tried to be achieved with the circuit up to this point. So yeah, looks top drawer actually. There's not a lot of architecture around, there's not a lot of trackside furniture particularly. Oh, he's off. Will he get back on again? Yes, he will, but we've got to run, so we will take that position from you. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's not a lot of trackside furniture around or anything. And on paper, I may initially have thought that could make the track feel a little bit sparse, could make it feel a little bit like it's missing a next level of development to bring stuff. But actually, when out on track, I don't think it is at all. I think the balance has been struck really nicely to get what looks like a finished venue. It feels like the Grand Prix section of Brands Hatch, for example. Feels a lot like that, apart from the imposing tree lines everywhere. And that's really cool. That's, again, the temptation to not go overboard and put a Ferris wheel and a fun fair and a rocket ship and 2 million skyscrapers. That's tempting when you're creating fantasy content, but I'm delighted to say that's not been a pitfall, in my opinion, a pitfall anyway, that Leon S has fallen into. I mean, the only nod I suppose we've got to a little bit of the visually dramatic is this bridge we're about to go on now. So this takes us over the lake or the sea or whatever it is that we're going over and onto the other side of the island. But that's, again, it's not been overdone. It's not turned into an Abu Dhabi-esque, massively illuminated, dramatic, multi-billion-dollar structure. It's just a very functional traffic bridge that you would absolutely expect to see in this sort of area, and that's wicked. I like stuff like that. I like that level of seriousness that surrounds this circuit. It's a fantasy track, but it's not been done for fun. It's been done to see what a real world racing location would feel like around these streets. And that is wicked, and that's one of the reasons why I've got some interest in this, when normally fantasy tracks would be something I have the utmost respect for, please don't get me wrong, but they don't have any interest to me on a personal point of view whatsoever. Not so with this one. I am really, really enjoying it. It's a really good track, something that I will absolutely try and do some more laps in again after the creation of this video one day in the future. It's something that I will certainly keep a beady eye on to see how it progresses, especially if this troublesome frame rate issue that seems to be sucking all the FPS out of my computer can be resolved, because that's got to be addressed before this one can be seen as a real contender, as an absolute top draw mod. It does distract from me. I mean, I'm doing this 10-lap race now, and it's starting to bug me, the FPS, I must admit, and the stutter that I'm getting. I could lower the settings, of course, which would no doubt help my cause, but I try to keep the content that I keep in circulation on a regular basis as stuff that I can run the settings as I've got them across the board, so they're all normalised a little bit against each other and against the Kunos standards, I suppose. And this one falls a little bit outside at the moment of those parameters. But again, I've said it a couple of times now, I'm absolutely certain that that's something that will surely can and will be addressed in future builds. So it's not ideal at the moment, and probably for me what keeps this track rooted in a 4-star rating. But as soon as that goes away and we've got comparable FPS to other mod track releases, then this will, in my opinion at the very least, instantly rise to a 5-star, and that ever so well sought after must-have status for any sim racer that wants a complete Assetto Corsa sim racing experience within their game install. So, to sum up the track in the next couple of laps before we finish our talk and drive, it's quite fast, it's quite technical, there appears to be some nice overtaking opportunities, it's attractive to drive in a range of different cars, low horsepower, high horsepower, big downforce, no downforce, front rear wheel drive, touring car, GT, or lightweight kit car special like these. They all work, and work well for the track. It looks the business. It's a very believable layout, it's very believable visuals, it's a very enjoyable driving experience, there's plenty of attention to detail. On the graphics and on the mesh side of things, it's got a really cool extra thing in that it's got the online version of the track and the offline finish version of the track as well. The replay cameras all seem to be pretty darn good. It gives you a realistic feeling of being at a racetrack in Sweden, and it's enjoyable, and it's very, very enjoyable. It's free to download, which is really cool. It's still under development, so yet more goodies in a future release are highly realistic to be added to the track as we go forward. So yeah, really it's absolutely chock-a-block full of positives. The only downside I'm going to give it, well, the two downsides, well, neither of them are a downside as such, but I'm going to give it is, as it stands at the moment on the December 2018 version 1 build release, the performance is just not where it needs to be yet at really high settings, or reasonably high settings like I've got. And the other one is, it only comes in one layout at the moment, which is not a downside as such, but I really enjoy the track and I'd love to see a couple of different versions in future brought to the mod. A short and a long, or a south or a north loop, something like that would be really, really cool. And that's more would like to have than a legitimate downside. So yeah, this is one really good, really accomplished mod track for Assetto Corsa, and something I would categorically recommend to anybody to check out, even if you are, like I am, not a big fan of fantasy content. This one bridges the gap between real content and fantasy content absolutely wonderfully, and that's the balance that I think Leon S has got absolutely bang right. So yes, thank you, essentially thank you to the author and everybody that's been involved in this project. This really is a top quality piece of work. I am absolutely looking forward to watching its progress with interest in the coming weeks, months and potentially even years, to see how Sveg Raceway version 1.0 gets on for Assetto Corsa until it's deemed absolutely 100% complete. What we've got at the moment is fantastic. There's some real potential in here to become... Hello. We'll have another look. There we go. We'll have another look at the runoff area as well, because we want a thorough review, don't we? And yeah, it's got absolutely the potential to become one of the top mod tracks in AC, without any shadow of a doubt. And the only other slight downside I'm going to give it, and this is absolutely not a negative, it's just more me, it's based in a place called Sveg, and having had a misspent youth watching programs like Red Dwarf, whenever I hear Sveg, done it then, whenever I hear Sveg, I can't help but think of Smeg from Crichton in Red Dwarf. So when I'm doing a video like this, it's become very mentally taxing not to say Sveg Raceway. So yeah, that's just me having a misspent youth, and it being late at night and I'm tired and my defences are low. But yeah, Sveg Raceway version 1.0 for Assetto Corsa is awesome, but not as good as Sveg Raceway version 1.0, which we're driving today. So yeah, that's pretty much it for our little talk and drive. Before we do go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Ben Bro and this absolutely exceptional Caterham Academy 2017 car, one of many Caterham cars that Ben has released and is working on at the moment. These are, in real life, a very fine little road and race car, and in Assetto Corsa, in any racing sim in fact, I find it almost criminal that there's not a whole bunch of Caterham content created by the studio. And I think a sim like AC absolutely cries out for a Caterham. So Ben valiantly has stepped into that gap and brought out a range of awesome Caterham cars for AC, and this one is absolutely fabulous. They're all fabulous, to be perfectly honest. I just picked the Academy 2017 at random because it was the first one that my cursor hovered over, but they're all absolutely superb cars, and without any shadow of a doubt, definitely must have content for everybody. It's they're all made really nicely, they look the bee's knees, they sound the bee's knees, and the physics are just sublime. They're just a brilliant car in real life, reasonably high power, the bugger all weight, so it's got a great power to weight ratio, it's a very alive car, it really dances around, and the way that Ben does his physics, or whomever it is that looks after the physics side, if it's not directly Ben, but whoever does the physics does a brilliant job of being able to feel the suspension and feel the car moving about. I've been lucky enough to have a go in more than one Caterham, and it feels on point, really does feel great. Sadly, I've never took a Caterham out on that there track, but I have skirted, shall we say, the legally allowed levels of performance on the public road in one, and it does feel like a very good representation of a Caterham. And there, any car from Ben Bro is absolutely worth the download. They're amazing things. I'd do all my Assetto Corsa driving in one of the Caterhams, if I'm perfectly honest. I like it that much. It's one of, if not the favourite car of mine. Hello! There we go, a bit of advertising for Huskenveld there by smacking the front of my car into his company logo. But yeah, it is my one of my go-to cars in AC. Absolutely love all of the Caterhams from Ben. So yeah, a little shout out at the end of the video as well for him and his fabulous, fabulous cars. Right, that pretty much sums it up now for me. I think I'm pretty much done and dusted with this here vid. So I hope you've enjoyed our latest Talk and Drive video. We've been taking the V1 release of Sveg Raceway for Assetto Corsa by Leon S out for a quick spin in the Ben O'Broke rated Caterham 2017 Academy car. I love the trike, apart from the couple of quirks that I've mentioned that need dealing with. I absolutely adore the car as well. And as always, I've really enjoyed creating this video for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I would appreciate a like and a subscribe on our Twitch page if you so can, and our YouTube as well. But also, we're around on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram and Facebook, and at RaceDepartment.com, of course. So feel free to have a flutter over and say hello to us on our various different sim racing channels, because